Imagine if tomorrow morning every book on Earth disappeared, every library burned, every hard drive wiped, every server crashed. Wikipedia, gone. Google, gone. Every piece of accumulated human knowledge, every scientific discovery, every story, every record of history, just erased. Now imagine that nobody wrote down exactly how it happened, no clear record, no definitive answer, just fragments of conflicting stories, rumors, and theories that contradict each other. You'd spend the rest of human history asking one question: what the hell happened? That's exactly where we are with the Library of Alexandria. For centuries, it stood as the greatest repository of human knowledge ever assembled. Hundreds of thousands of scrolls, the combined wisdom of the ancient world. Mathematics, astronomy, medicine, philosophy, literature, history, all gathered in one place. It was the Google, the Harvard, the Smithsonian of the ancient world, all rolled into one magnificent institution. And then it vanished. The greatest library in human history was destroyed, and we don't actually know how, when, or who did it. We've got theories. We've got suspects. We've got dramatic stories passed down through the centuries. But we don't have the truth. Today we're investigating one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries and one of humanity's most devastating losses. What really happened to the Library of Alexandria? Was it burned by Caesar's army? Destroyed by religious fanatics? Erased by Arab conquerors? Or did it just fade away, forgotten and neglected? And here's the question that should terrify you. Could we lose everything again? Let's find out. First, we need to understand what the Library of Alexandria actually was, because it's not what you're probably picturing. Forget the quiet library where you studied in college. Forget the public library in your hometown with the bored librarian and the overdue fees. The Library of Alexandria was something completely different. It was part library, part research institute, part university, and part temple to human knowledge itself. The year is around 300 BCE. Alexander the Great has just died, and his massive empire is being carved up by his generals. One of them, Ptolemy, takes Egypt and declares himself king. He makes Alexandria, the city Alexander founded, his capital. Ptolemy has a vision. He wants to make Alexandria the intellectual center of the world. He wants to gather all human knowledge in one place, not just Greek knowledge, all knowledge, from every civilization, every culture, every corner of the known world. So he creates the Library of Alexandria, and it's ambitious beyond anything attempted before. Here's how it worked. The Ptolemies didn't just wait for books to show up. They hunted them down aggressively. They sent agents across the Mediterranean and beyond to buy, borrow, or copy every text they could find. They'd pay top dollar for rare manuscripts. They'd send scholars on expeditions to distant lands just to bring back foreign texts. And here's my favorite part. They had a law that every ship that docked in Alexandria's harbor had to surrender any books or scrolls on board. The library would copy them, keep the originals, and give the ship's owners the copies. Imagine landing in a modern city and the government just takes your laptop, copies everything, and hands you back a thumb drive. That was Alexandria. They collected everything. Homer's epics, Egyptian medical texts, Babylonian astronomy, Persian histories, Jewish scriptures, mathematical treatises from India, philosophical works from Greece, plays, poems, scientific observations, religious texts, government records, personal letters. If it was written down, Alexandria wanted it. The numbers are staggering. Ancient sources claim the library eventually held somewhere between 400,000 and 700,000 scrolls. Now, that doesn't mean 700,000 different books. A single work like Homer's Odyssey might take up multiple scrolls. But we're still talking about an absolutely massive collection representing the accumulated knowledge of the entire ancient world. The library wasn't just storage, though. It was alive with activity. Scholars from across the Mediterranean came to study there. The Ptolemies paid them salaries, gave them free room and board, and let them focus entirely on research. It was the first think tank, the first research university. These guys had it made. And they did incredible work. Euclid developed modern geometry there. His book, Elements, would be the standard mathematics textbook for 2,000 years. Eratosthenes calculated the circumference of the Earth with stunning accuracy, using just shadows and geometry. In 200 BCE, this guy figured out the Earth was round and how big it was, and he was only off by about 2%. Aristarchus proposed that the Earth orbited the Sun 17 centuries before Copernicus. Herophilus performed the first systematic dissections of human bodies and made breakthrough discoveries in anatomy. Callimachus created the first library catalog system, organizing hundreds of thousands of scrolls so scholars could actually find what they needed. Archimedes studied there. Hipparchus created the first accurate star charts there. The science of textual criticism was invented there. The Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible, was created there. This wasn't just a library, it was the engine of human progress. It was where humanity's greatest minds came to push the boundaries of knowledge. And then it was gone. So what happened? When did it burn? Who destroyed it? Here's the frustrating truth. We don't know. We don't have a clear, definitive account. What we have are fragments, conflicting stories, and theories that have been argued about for centuries. Let's go through the suspects. Suspect number 1, Julius Caesar. The year is 48 BCE. Julius Caesar is chasing his rival Pompey across the Mediterranean. The Roman Civil War is raging. Caesar arrives in Alexandria and gets caught up in a local power struggle between Cleopatra and her brother, Ptolemy III. Caesar takes Cleopatra's side. Fighting breaks out. Caesar's forces are outnumbered and trapped in the harbor district. In a desperate tactical move, Caesar orders his men to set fire to the Egyptian fleet in the harbor to prevent it from being used against him. The fire spreads. Ships burn. The docks burn. And according to some ancient sources, the fire reaches warehouses containing books from the library, destroying thousands of scrolls. Case closed, right? Caesar burned the Library of Alexandria. Except, not really. First, the ancient sources don't actually say the library itself burned. They mention books burning, but those might have been scrolls stored in harbor warehouses waiting to be cataloged or copied. The main library was located in the Palace District, some distance from the harbor. Second, we have accounts of scholars working at the library decades and even centuries after Caesar's fire. If he destroyed it completely, that wouldn't be possible. Third, Cleopatra herself was a scholar and a patron of the library. She and Caesar were lovers. Would she have just shrugged off the destruction of her city's greatest treasure? Probably not. So the Caesar theory has problems. Maybe he destroyed part of the collection. Maybe he damaged some warehouses. But he probably didn't destroy the whole library. Next suspect. Suspect number 2, Christian zealots. Jump forward to the year 391 CE. The Roman Empire is now officially Christian. Paganism is on the way out. The old gods are being replaced. In Alexandria, there's growing tension between Christians and pagans. The city has a large pagan temple complex called the Serapeum, which houses part of the library's collection. Some sources say it's become the main library location by this time. The Christian patriarch Theophilus, backed by Emperor Theodosius, orders the destruction of pagan temples. A mob forms. They storm the Serapeum. They tear down the statues. They destroy the temple. And according to some accounts, they burn the books. This theory became really popular in the Enlightenment and later because it fit a narrative about religious fundamentalism destroying science and reason. Edward Gibbon's famous Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire pushed this story hard. It's dramatic. Religious fanatics destroying ancient wisdom in a frenzy of ignorance. Books burning as civilization slides into the Dark Ages. But again, the evidence is messy. Some ancient sources mention the destruction of the Serapeum, but don't specifically mention books being destroyed. Others say the library at the Serapeum had already declined by this point, or that the books had been moved elsewhere. The Christian writer Orosius, writing just a few years later, visited Alexandria and saw empty shelves in the temples, suggesting the books were already gone before the Christian riots. Did Christians destroy some texts? Probably. Did they burn the entire library in one dramatic moment? The evidence isn't clear. Suspect number 3. Arab conquest. Now we jump to 642 CE. Arab armies, spreading Islam, conquer Egypt. The general Amr ibn al-As takes Alexandria. According to a story that appears centuries later, Amr finds the great library still standing. He asks Caliph Umar what to do with all these books. Umar supposedly replies, "If the books agree with the Quran, they are unnecessary. If they disagree, they are heretical. Either way, destroy them." The story claims the scrolls were used as fuel to heat the city's bathhouses. There were so many books it took 6 months to burn them all. It's a hell of a story, and it's been repeated for centuries. There's just one problem. It's almost certainly false. This story first appears in a text written by a Christian bishop named Bar Hebraeus in the 13th century, 600 years after the supposed event. No contemporary sources mention it. Not Arab sources, not Christian sources. Nobody. Most modern historians consider this story propaganda, possibly invented during the Crusades to make Muslims look bad. Furthermore, Islamic scholars actually valued learning and preserved Greek texts. The Islamic Golden Age saw Arab scholars translate and preserve countless works that might otherwise have been lost. Why would they burn the Library of Alexandria? The Arab conquest theory is almost certainly a myth. So if none of these dramatic destructions are the answer, what the hell happened? Theory 4. Death by 1,000 cuts. This is where most modern scholars have landed, and honestly, it's the most realistic and the most depressing answer. The Library of Alexandria probably wasn't destroyed in one dramatic moment. It died slowly, gradually, through neglect, decay, budget cuts, and the slow collapse of the world that created it. Think about it. The library was expensive to maintain. You needed copyists to preserve decaying scrolls. You needed scholars to catalog and organize. You needed guards to protect the collection. You needed a government willing to fund it all. The Ptolemaic dynasty that founded the library eventually weakened. Egypt became a Roman province. The money dried up. Maintenance declined. Fewer new texts were acquired. Fewer scholars were supported. Wars, riots, and occasional fires probably damaged parts of the collection over the centuries. Each disaster chipped away at it. Caesar's fire in 48 BCE probably destroyed some scrolls. Aurelian's siege of Alexandria in 270 CE probably destroyed more. The Christian riots in 391 CE likely destroyed what was left in the Serapeum. But there was no single apocalyptic moment. Just slow decline. As the Roman Empire weakened and eventually fell, the conditions that supported the library disappeared. Who would pay to preserve ancient texts when cities were being sacked and food was scarce? Who would travel to Alexandria to study when trade routes were collapsing and the Mediterranean was full of pirates? The scrolls themselves were fragile. Papyrus decays. If scrolls weren't regularly copied, they crumbled. Over time, without care, the collection would simply rot away. By the time of the Arab conquest in the 7th century, the library probably didn't exist anymore in any meaningful form. Maybe some scattered texts remained in various locations, but the great institution was long gone. The Library of Alexandria didn't burn in a single dramatic conflagration. It faded away, forgotten, and neglected as the civilization that created it slowly collapsed. Which, honestly, is way sadder than any of the dramatic destruction theories. Now let's talk about what we lost, because this is where it gets really painful. We know the names of thousands of ancient works that existed in the library but are completely lost today. We know about them because later writers mention them, quote them, or reference them. But the actual texts? Gone forever. Most of the Greek plays are lost. We have maybe 30 complete plays from ancient Greece, but we know the names of hundreds more that existed. All the rest of Sophocles' works, most of Euripides, entire genres of Greek literature that we know existed but can't read. Early scientific works are gone. Aristarchus's heliocentric theory, the idea that Earth orbits the Sun, was described in texts at Alexandria. Those texts are lost. We know about his theory only from later writers who argued against it. Advanced mathematics disappeared. We know the ancient world had sophisticated math because we see the results in their engineering and astronomy. But many of the treatises explaining their methods are gone. Medical knowledge was lost. The library held detailed medical texts from Egypt, Greece, and beyond. Most of it vanished. We had to rediscover things centuries later that the ancient world already knew. Historical records disappeared. We'd have a much clearer picture of ancient history if we had access to the thousands of historical works housed in Alexandria. Instead, we have fragments and gaps. Alternative versions of religious texts were lost. The library had multiple versions of texts like the Hebrew Bible, the Odyssey, and other foundational works. Comparing them would tell us how these texts evolved. We can't because those versions are gone. Think about what humanity could have achieved if we'd kept that knowledge, if medieval scholars had access to advanced Greek mathematics and science, if we hadn't had to rediscover things we already knew. The burning of the Library of Alexandria set human progress back centuries, maybe more than 1,000 years. The Dark Ages might have been significantly less dark if that knowledge had survived. It's not just that we lost books, we lost possible futures. We lost what we could have become. Here's the part that should keep you up at night. We're in danger of doing it again. Right now, huge amounts of human knowledge exist only in digital form. Websites, databases, digital archives, research papers that were never printed, photos and videos that exist only as data. What happens if that's all gone tomorrow? We think digital storage is permanent, but it's not. Hard drives fail, file formats become obsolete, websites disappear, companies go bankrupt and their servers go dark. There's something called digital dark age that archivists are genuinely worried about. We might know less about the late 20th and early 21st centuries in the future than we know about ancient Rome because our records are stored in formats that won't be readable. We've already lost tons of early internet history. Websites from the 1990s and 2000s are just gone. MySpace famously lost 12 years of user-uploaded music, 50 million songs, in a server migration error, just erased. And it's not just digital. Physical libraries are being defunded. Universities are closing humanities departments. Research is being lost behind paywalls. Indigenous knowledge is disappearing as languages die. The Library of Alexandria isn't just ancient history. It's a warning. Civilization is fragile. Knowledge is fragile. We can lose it faster than we think. The scholars of Alexandria thought their library would last forever. They thought they were building something permanent. They were wrong. What makes us think we're any different? The mystery of what happened to the Library of Alexandria probably doesn't have one answer. It wasn't one fire, one villain, one dramatic moment. It was the slow, tragic decline of a great institution as the world that created it fell apart. But the real mystery isn't what happened to the library. It's what we're going to do with the knowledge we have now. Are we going to preserve it, protect it, make it accessible, or are we going to let it slip away through neglect, defunding, and digital decay? The ancient world lost the Library of Alexandria and entered a dark age. We have the chance to learn from their mistake. The question is, will we? If this journey into one of history's greatest tragedies made you think, hit that subscribe button right now. We dig into the mysteries, the conspiracies, and the forgotten moments that shaped our world. New videos every week that will change how you see history. And tell me in the comments, what modern knowledge do you think is most at risk of being lost? What's our generation's Library of Alexandria? I'm genuinely curious what you think, and I read every single comment. History isn't just about the past, it's about not making the same mistakes again. Let's remember together.